Day 1 felt like a mirror he had avoided for years. Nick, 34, delivery driver and a father to 5-year-old Mira, found himself staring at a reflection that seemed to argue with his memories. He used to run after puddles with Mira, spin her in the kitchen, and laugh until his sides hurt. Lately he hesitated at curbs, out of breath at simple games. That night, after tucking Mira into a blanket fortress of stuffed animals, Nick made a different kind of promise: 7 days, honest effort, and kind rules. He wrote a compact plan and kept it mercilessly simple. Drink water before coffee, walk an extra 2 blocks each day, do 3 core moves each morning, eat 1 solid nourishing meal instead of grazing, sleep earlier, and skip miracle diets. The first day was about remembering movement. He laced up worn sneakers and walked around the block, not to punish his body but to reacquaint himself with it. Each step felt like a small reclamation. On day 2, the city woke as usual, but Nick felt a small shift. He swapped his usual pastry for oats mashed with banana and a handful of nuts. The change was tiny, but it carried dignity. He delivered parcels with a new mindfulness: breathe, engage the core, choose the stairs when possible. Movement threaded through his day like a quiet promise. Fatigue arrived on day 3 like a familiar friend with bad advice. His muscles complained and his fingers tempted him toward old comforts: sugar, fast food, late-night scrolling. Instead of surrendering, he answered with short rituals: a morning plank held for 30 seconds, squats by the elevator, gentle stretches beside a delivery van. He used a notebook to record actions, not numbers, and found that small consistent steps felt less like deprivation and more like permission. Work friends laughed when he described 7 days. That's just a headline, one joked. The scoff fueled him. He pictured Mira, asking simply one afternoon, "Daddy, will you run with me?" He wanted to answer yes. The goal became less about shape and more about presence, being able to lift her without strain, to play, to be steady and engaged. By day 4, his posture improved. Clothes that had felt tight loosened at the waist a fraction. The change was more than visual, he felt less dragged by the day. Sleep crept earlier as he traded late phone time for a paperback that smelled like quiet. More rest made mornings clearer and movement easier. Day 5 tested him: a longer shift, a bad delivery route, and the temptation of convenience foods. That night Mira wanted pancakes. Instead of the usual batter, Nick blended oats with banana and a little egg, frying small golden discs that tasted like care. Mira declared them good daddy pancakes, and his chest swelled with a pride that had little to do with weight and everything to do with being chosen. The 6th day brought a lesson in technique. Lifting a heavy crate, Nick felt his back strain. He paused, shifted his weight, hinged at his hips, and felt his core support the motion. The few minutes he had invested in planks and controlled movement began to pay off. He realized the belly he had long seen as a problem was simply part of a body that could be taught new patterns. Neighbors noticed in small ways. Mrs. Ahmed asked what he had been doing differently. He shrugged, offered his walking route, and felt the warmth of shared effort. A coworker tried his oatmeal and asked for the recipe. These small conversations turned personal discipline into community ritual, and community kept him accountable in a gentle way. On the 7th morning, Nick unrolled his mat and practiced a slow sun salute. He held a plank a beat longer than before and let the breath steady his mind. He stepped on the scale with a curiosity that surprised him. The number had shifted modestly. More meaningful was the way his body felt, less sluggish, edges eased, more willing. That afternoon at Myra's school play, he sat through the show without gulping breaths. When it ended, he lifted Mira in his arms and spun her. She laughed, a sound like bells. "You did it, Daddy," she told the playground as if it were a proclamation. For Nick, the victory was quieter, the realization that small actions aggregated into change. He had not transformed overnight, but he had started a conversation with himself that could continue. That evening he wrote in his notebook the rituals that sustained him: water before coffee, a brief walk, 3 core moves, 1 nourishing meal, and sleep that came earlier. He underlined one guiding rule: kindness is non-negotiable. Change required patience. Impatience had brought him here before. He decided the 7 days would be a beginning, not a deadline. Weeks later, the habits had settled into life. Mira asked weekly if they would race, and Nick answered with a grin and steady sneakers. Some weight remained, but it no longer defined him. The stomach that once felt like a judge softened into a part of his story. He had traded dramatic promises for persistent acts of care, and those acts kept him moving forward. The true ending is not a number on a scale but the choice to continue. When setbacks came, an evening of stress eating or a day without exercise, Nick treated them as potholes to navigate, not as proof of failure. He returned to his small rituals and kept going. One quiet night, Mira fell asleep with paint on her fingers and a crayon in her hair. Nick watched her breathe and thought of the 7 days. He touched his notebook, traced the underlined rule with a smile, and whispered into the dark, "Tomorrow." It was a small word carrying a whole life ahead. He rose the next morning, laced sneakers, kissed Mira, and stepped outside, ready for another small, stubborn day of change and kept going.